You are here because you are suffocating financially. But what I'm about to expose goes far beyond money. I am going to show you the exact psychological architecture built to keep you exactly where you are. Society tells you poverty is simply a lack of resources. They tell you that if you work hard, save your change, and wait for an opportunity, you will eventually rise. They are lying. Poverty is not a financial condition. It is a behavioral cage. It is a psychological disease engineered by the powerful to ensure you never become a threat. Robert Greene understood the brutal mechanics of social mobility and power. He exposed patterns so ruthless modern society prefers to ignore them. Once you see the invisible bars holding you hostage, you can never unsee them, and you will finally know exactly how to pick the lock. The concept that separates the rulers from the ruled. Most people in poverty exist in a state of waiting. They wait for a promotion. They wait for the economy to improve. They wait for a lucky break, a savior, a lottery ticket. This is the mentality of prey. You are waiting for the environment to decide your fate. Robert Greene describes life as a chaotic arena where fortune shifts constantly. The weak pray for better conditions. The strong prepare, adapt, and move before opportunity appears. To escape poverty, you must stop being prey. You must adopt the mentality of the predator. A predator does not wait for food to offer itself. A predator studies the terrain. A predator identifies weakness. A predator strikes with calculated aggression. This requires the trait Robert Greene consistently emphasizes: strategic boldness, not kindness, not passivity. Raw, disciplined ambition fused with strategy. Look at history. Look at people who rose from nothing. They did not rise by hoping the system would recognize their potential. They rose by studying the mechanics of power. They aligned themselves with leverage. They learned timing, positioning, and strategy. They created opportunities instead of waiting for them. They didn't work for the system blindly. They studied the system until they understood how to make it serve them. Ray Dalio echoes this in his Modern Principles, Clear-Eyed Reality. The successful do not view the world as it should be. They view it exactly as it is. They map the moving parts. Escaping poverty requires this cold, objective calculation. You must look at systems, money, and relationships as resources to be engineered. You must stop hoping for fairness. Fairness is an illusion sold to children. The market does not care if you are tired. It does not care if you have bad luck. It only respects value. You must become aggressive in your pursuit of leverage. You must hunt for asymmetric advantages. This shifts you from defense to offense. You are no longer surviving. You are conquering. But how do you hunt when you have no energy? When you are exhausted from merely existing? This brings us to the most uncomfortable realization of all. The discipline of destruction. You look at successful people and assume they possess a discipline that you lack. You tell yourself that you are lazy, that you lack focus, that you are a victim of your own procrastination. This is a lie. You are not undisciplined. You are terrifyingly consistent. You possess an ironclad, relentless discipline for staying poor. Think about it. Every single day, you execute the exact habits required to maintain your current financial reality. You never miss a beat. You consistently choose cheap dopamine over difficult learning. You perfectly calculate how to spend your paycheck the moment it hits your account. You execute the routine of complaining about the economy with flawless precision. The compound effect is a law of physics. Darren Hardy explains how small, consistent actions compound into massive results over time. But the compound effect does not care if your habits are positive or negative. It simply multiplies whatever you feed it. Every time you choose the comfortable distraction, you are not just wasting an hour. You are depositing an investment into the bank of your own failure, and that investment accrues devastating interest. People at the bottom do not realize they are master architects. They are just building a prison instead of a palace. Robert Greene understood that human beings are creatures of habit, often trapped by their own patterns. He observed that those who fail to adapt to changing realities eventually collapse under them. You have adapted to defeat. You have made peace with the bottom. You must stop trying to build discipline. You already have it. You must redirect the violent force of your consistency away from self-sabotage and point it toward your escape. Start treating your daily choices with a sense of paranoia. Every dollar spent on something that does not generate a return is a bullet fired at your future. Every hour spent consuming trash entertainment is an hour you handed over to your competitors. You must destroy the habits that are keeping you broke with the same ruthlessness you would use against an intruder in your home, because they are intruders. They are stealing your life. Is it just your habits holding you back? No, the final lock on your cage is held by the people closest to you. The gravity of the underclass. You are trying to climb a wall. You are finding your grip. You are pulling yourself up, but you have weights tied to your ankles. Those weights have names. They have faces. They are your friends. They are your family. They are the people you grew up with. Robert Greene has repeatedly analyzed the mechanics of group psychology and social conformity. He understood that humans are tribal creatures. We conform to the baseline of our immediate environment. If you exist in an environment where poverty is the norm, poverty has its own culture, its own language, and its own rules of enforcement. There is a deep subconscious resentment among struggling people toward anyone who tries to leave. They will not attack you directly. They will use a weapon far more subtle, mockery and false concern. When you say you are reading a book on economics instead of going to the bar, they will laugh. Look at the billionaire, they will say. When you say you are starting a business, they will warn you about the risks. Most businesses fail, don't lose what little you have. They frame their sabotage as love. But it is not love, it is panic. Your ambition is a spotlight that exposes their resignation. If you succeed, if you escape, it destroys the lie they have built their lives upon. It proves that poverty is not a permanent life sentence, which means their failure is not just fate. They cannot bear that weight, so they must pull you back down to keep their own illusions intact. This is the psychological barrier that stops most people from breaking the cycle. They cannot withstand the emotional isolation of leaving their tribe. Thomas Sowell highlights that the transmission of human capital, attitudes, habits, and knowledge is far more critical to escaping poverty than the transmission of financial capital. If your environment transmits defeat, you must separate yourself from that environment. This sounds cruel, it is. Robert Greene's strategic thinking requires you to look at human nature without sentimentality. You cannot save everyone while drowning beside them. If you stay to rescue everyone, they may pull you under. You must learn the art of strategic silence. Stop broadcasting your plans. Stop asking for advice from people who have never built anything. You do not discuss your ambition with people who are committed to their own mediocrity. You must become a ghost in your old life. You smile, you nod, you remain polite. But internally, you have already packed your bags. You are operating on a different frequency. Escaping poverty is a rebellion against your past, your conditioning, and often your bloodline. It requires you to be cold enough to walk away from the familiar warmth of shared misery. The trap of linear labor. You were taught the formula. Go to school, get a job, keep your head down, work harder than the guy next to you, put in the overtime, sweat, bleed, and eventually the system will reward you. This is the worker's illusion. The system is not designed to reward your hard work. It is designed to extract it. If hard work alone produced wealth, the richest people in the world would be ditch diggers and bricklayers. Robert Greene understood the difference between tactics and strategy. Working hard is a tactic, but if the strategy is flawed, you are just accelerating your own decline. Working 80 hours a week at a job that pays you an hourly wage is linear labor. It is trading a finite resource, your lifespan, for a fixed, highly taxed return. You cannot scale your physical presence. You will eventually run out of hours, or you will run out of health. Ray Dalio built one of the greatest financial empires in history, not by sweating harder, but by seeing reality clearly. He understood that wealth is generated through non-linear systems. Code, capital, media, intellectual property, scalable teams. These things work while you sleep. If you're trying to escape poverty by merely asking for more shifts, you're using a spoon to dig a tunnel through a mountain. You will die exhausted, and you will barely make a dent. The Brookings Institution outlines the psychological barriers to upward mobility. One of the greatest barriers is a lack of cognitive bandwidth. When you are constantly stressed about rent, you cannot think 5 years ahead. You are trapped in the tyranny of the immediate. You must forcefully carve out mental space. You must stop asking, how can I work harder, and begin asking, how can I detach my income from my time? You need an asymmetric advantage, a skill that is difficult to learn, highly valuable to the market, and scalable. This is the cold mathematics of escaping the bottom. The market does not pay you for your effort. It pays you for your replaceability. If anyone can do your job with 2 weeks of training, you will always struggle financially. You must become irreplaceable. You must become the exception in the system. When you transition from selling your time to selling your leverage, the rules of the game change entirely. You learn to hate pain since you were little. You were taught that financial suffering is a sign of weakness. That being broke is a shameful secret you must hide at all costs. And so you run. You avoid looking at your bank account. You deny your reality. You numb the anxiety with cheap entertainment. But as long as you run from the pain of your poverty, you are controlled by it. The Robert Greene mindset uses pain. It converts the sting of being at the bottom into fuel. When you cannot afford to feed your family properly, when you are humiliated by a landlord, do not suppress that anger. Do not numb it. Distill it. Anger is high-octane fuel. If you let it burn out of control, it will destroy you. But if you capture it, if you compress it into an engine, it will propel you forward. The elites want you sedated. They want you watching mind-numbing content, eating mind-numbing food, and living in a state of passive acceptance. A sedated man does not scheme. A sedated man does not build. You must wake up and feel the cold reality of your position. Look at the dirt. Feel the chains. Let the humiliation wash over you until it crystallizes into an absolute unbreakable resolve. I will never live like this again. When you detach your ego from your current situation, you stop defending it. You stop making excuses for why you are broke. You look in the mirror and you accept the brutal truth. I am here because my strategy failed. I am here because I played by rules designed to keep me stuck. That realization is the death of the old self, and it is incredibly painful. You are shedding a skin that you have worn your entire life. It leaves you raw. It leaves you vulnerable, but it is the only way to grow stronger armor. You cannot heal a wound while the blade is still inside, and the blade keeping you paralyzed is the illusion that the system is broken. The system is not broken. It is functioning exactly as designed. It was built to keep you exactly where you are, producing maximum labor for minimum capital. Poverty is a highly profitable industry. Your credit card debt is a bank's asset. Your addiction to cheap dopamine is a tech company's revenue. Your exhaustion is the mechanism that prevents you from planning your escape. Robert Greene observed throughout history that ruling classes did not rely on luck. They built structures that protected their survival at the expense of those beneath them. If you want to escape that structure, you must stop thinking like someone trapped inside it and start thinking strategically. The consumption of anesthesia versus ammunition. Look at what you consume when you are finished with your linear labor. You are exhausted. Your brain is begging for a break. So you sit down and you open an app. You watch a show. You play a game. You numb the pain of your reality. This is the great pacifier. The Roman emperors used bread and circuses to keep the poor distracted. Today, the circuses are algorithmic. They are infinite. They are perfectly tailored to keep you sedated. You think you are relaxing. You're actually surrendering. Every hour you spend consuming entertainment is an hour you could have spent acquiring ammunition. The wealthy do not consume media the way you do. They consume data. They consume leverage. They read the terrain. Robert Greene built his work by studying history, power, war, and human behavior with relentless focus. He weaponized knowledge. You must do the same with your current struggle. You must cut the cord to the anesthesia. It will hurt. When you turn off the screen, the silence will force you to hear the terrifying reality of your bank account. Good. Let the panic set in. Let it drive you. Start consuming information that challenges your current existence. Study economics. Study persuasion. Study the tax code. Study negotiation psychology. You are going to war against an economic machine, and you are currently walking onto the battlefield blindfolded, armed with a plastic sword. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is financial paralysis. When you know how the gears turn, you stop getting crushed by them. But what happens when you acquire this knowledge? How do you apply it in a world where you hold no titles? You use the most deceptive weapon in the strategic arsenal, the myth of the loyal servant, the corporate world, the factories, the service industry. These are modern feudal states, and they rely on a very specific psychological manipulation, the illusion of the family. We are a family here. We reward loyalty. Put in your time and we will take care of you. These are the lies institutions tell so people never ask for ownership. If you are trying to escape poverty, blind loyalty to an employer is financial suicide. Your employer is not your family. They are a counterparty in a transaction. They are extracting more value from you than they are paying you. Otherwise, they would not employ you. That is the cold math of business. Yet, people at the bottom pride themselves on being the most loyal worker in the building. They brag about never taking a sick day. They boast about working off the clock. They think this sacrifice will eventually be rewarded with status. It won't. It will be rewarded with more work. Robert Greene repeatedly emphasizes that relying on the gratitude of others is a losing strategy. Gratitude shifts the moment interests change, the moment the company needs to cut costs. Your 20 years of perfect attendance will not save you. You are a line item on a spreadsheet. Stop playing the loyal servant. Play the strategist. You go to your job not just to earn a wage, but to extract value from the company. Learn their systems. Learn their software. Observe how they acquire clients. Study how managers influence staff. Build a network using their environment. You are gathering intelligence and capital for your own future. When you strip away the emotional attachment to your employment, you see it for what it is, a temporary stepping stone. You do not owe them your identity. You owe them the labor agreed upon in the contract, nothing more. Use the opportunity exactly as they use your labor. As you apply these principles, something dangerous will happen. You will start to acquire a little bit of money, a slight surplus. This is the most critical phase. This is where most people who try to escape poverty fail. The moment struggling people get a taste of capital, what do? They buy a designer belt. They finance a luxury car they cannot afford. They upgrade their apartment. They broadcast their small victories on social media. Why? Because the psychological trauma of poverty is so deep. They are desperate to prove to the world that they are no longer poor. They buy the uniform of the wealthy while sacrificing the actual wealth to do it. This is weakness. It is the ego screaming for validation. The truly strategic despise the loud display of new money because it paints a target on your back. Robert Greene teaches that powerful people often appear ordinary while executing extraordinary plans. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few understand what you are actually building. When you start to rise, you must master the art of camouflage. Practice stealth wealth. Do not upgrade your lifestyle too quickly. Do not buy the watch. Do not suddenly change your wardrobe. Keep driving the damaged car. Live exactly as you did when you had nothing. But quietly stockpile your resources. Your money is not a tool for validation. It is ammunition. It is leverage. You do not send leverage to a fashion show. You send it to acquire assets. When you hide your ascent, you protect yourself from the envy of the crabs in the bucket. You avoid the family members who suddenly need a loan. You avoid the friends who expect you to pay for everything. You maintain your cover. Let them think you are still struggling. Let them underestimate you. Their underestimation is your greatest tactical advantage. While they are financing appearances to look rich, you are building assets in silence to become untouchable. Eventually, your power will become too visible to hide. But by then, the structure will already be built. We have arrived at the final, most brutal mechanism of escape. You must kill something you have been told is beautiful. You must kill your hope. Hope is the emotion of the powerless. It is a passive state of waiting for salvation. You hope the economy gets better. You hope someone notices your talent. You hope your investments go up. When you operate on hope, you delegate your destiny to the chaotic whims of the universe. You are begging fortune to be kind to you. Robert Greene does not teach hope as strategy. He teaches execution, force, adaptation, and timing. He understood that the world does not answer to hope. It answers to leverage. If you want to escape poverty, you cannot afford the luxury of hope. You must replace it with probability and math. You do not hope your business succeeds. You test the market. You run the numbers. You identify the failure points, and you execute a strategy based on data. If it fails, you do not collapse because hope was never involved. You simply acquire new data, adjust the variables, and strike again. When you kill hope, you kill disappointment. You stop breaking down when things go wrong because you expected reality to be difficult. You accept that life is indifferent to your comfort. This is not pessimism, it is clarity. When a man has no illusions, he has only his hands, his mind, and his will. He realizes that if he is drowning, no one is coming with a lifeboat. He must build a raft out of the debris around him or he will sink. That realization does not destroy you. It liberates you. It strips away the anxiety of waiting. It removes the resentment you feel toward the world for not helping you. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you start asking, "How do I use this?" You become a machine of pure intent. Escaping poverty is simpler than you think, because the mechanics are entirely within your control. The complexity is a smokescreen designed to keep you intimidated. It is not about working yourself to death. It is about understanding the psychological architecture of the game. You were playing checkers while the elite were playing chess. You were playing by rules of morality and loyalty that they promoted, but never followed themselves. The moment you detach your ego from your financial state, the moment you view money as a tool rather than a measure of your worth, the matrix shatters. You stop being the prey shivering in the river of fortune. You become the engineer building the dam. You now possess the Robert Greene formula. Drop the moral superiority of suffering. Hunt for leverage instead of waiting for luck. Redirect your ruthless consistency toward building assets. Separate yourself from toxic anchors in your environment. Transition from linear labor to scalable systems. Weaponize your information. Use institutional structures strategically. Hide your ascent in plain sight. Replace the beggar's emotion of hope with the strategist's tool of execution. It will be cold. It will be lonely. You will have to look in the mirror and destroy the victim. You have comforted for years, but what is the alternative? To live the rest of your life as a battery powering someone else's empire. To pass down the trauma of scarcity to the next generation. You have the blueprint. The lock on the cage is broken. The door is open, but a terrifying truth remains. Most people will look at the open door, feel the cold wind of responsibility blowing from the outside, and quietly pull the door shut again. They prefer the familiar pain of the cage to the terrifying freedom outside. Will you walk out, or will you go back to sleep? If you're still here, you're not like most people. Subscribe if you haven't.